Today we're going to be taking a look at the best supplemental braking systems for your 2016 Ford Focus. Whenever we're flat towing our Focus, a supplemental braking system is going to be a key component. Not only because it is required by law in most places, but we don't want to rely on our motorhome to slow itself down and now the extra weight of our Focus. That supplemental braking system is going to allow our Focus to slow itself down, reducing the time and distance that it takes us to stop. Which braking system is going to be right for you is really going to come down to three major things. How long you're going to keep your Focus, what kind of brakes are on your motorhome, and if you want to have an easier installation with more repetitive steps after the fact, or if you'd rather have a more intensive installation with nothing to do after that. So here we're going to have the Roadmaster InvisiBrake, and then over here we're going to have the Stay and Play Duo. Both of these are going to take the brake signal from our motorhome and use that to apply the brakes in our Focus. Now where they're going to differ is our InvisiBrake is going to get that signal and it's going to have a preset amount that it's going to apply to the brakes. Now we are going to be able to adjust the pressure using this knob here for more or less force, but it's just going to get that brake signal from the lights and then apply the brakes. Our Stay and Play Duo is still going to get that signal from the lights and apply the brakes. However, it's also going to have this G-force controller unit inside of our vehicle. What this is going to do is this is going to sense the slowing down or the deceleration of our Focus while in conjunction with that light signal and figure out the appropriate amount to apply the brakes. So if we come to a stop and ease into it, our Stay and Play is going to ease into the brakes just like in the motorhome, but if we come to a panic stop and slam on them, this is going to apply a lot more force. Both our braking systems are going to use an actuator to apply the brakes, but they're designed a little bit differently and are going to mount a little bit differently. The Stay and Play is going to have this small actuator, and this clamp here is going to go directly onto the brake pedal arm, and the actuator is going to pull on that brake pedal, which will cause the brakes to be applied. Now the Stay and Play, you can see the actuator is much larger. However, if we look at the back, there's going to be a cable that comes out, and instead of that entire actuator being mounted on the brake pedal arm, we're simply just going to have a small bracket with this end of the cable, and this pulley is going to be mounted on the firewall. So we're going to be able to remotely mount that cylinder, so it's a lot easier to get it installed. We'll have a little bit more room to work with underneath the dash. Now with both the actuators, the nice thing about the InvisiBrake is that we can remotely mount that actuator, but keep in mind that we do need to get the angle correct with the pulley and the cable to make sure it's pulling properly. Now with the Stay and Play, we're still going to have to find a spot to mount that on the firewall, but it is a much smaller piece and we're still going to have that cable nice and straight when we mount it. So since both these braking systems use the brake lights on our motorhome to apply the brakes, these are going to be a great permanent solution to motorhomes that have either hydraulic or air brakes. And once they're installed, we're not going to have to make any adjustments other than with the InvisiBrake. We may want to adjust the pressure due to our driving style or the road conditions. So we have two more options that are going to be specifically for motorhomes that have air brakes. Both of these are going to be a proportional system because they're going to tap into our motorhome's air brakes and apply the same amount of air pressure to our vehicle that we're applying at the pedal. Over here, we're going to have the Air Force One, and then over here, we're going to have the Brakemaster. Our Air Force One is going to be a permanent installation. It is going to be that one-time install, and then after that, we're not going to have to adjust or do any kind of other setup. We're going to have the main operating unit that's going to mount on the vehicle and have a few lines that come in and out, as well as an actuator that's going to be very similar to the Stay and Play Duo, where it mounts to the brake pedal arm and then to the firewall, and it's going to pull on that brake pedal to apply the brakes. Now on the motorhome side, we are going to have a tank and valve assembly, and this is going to mount to the underside of our motorhome so we can get access to all our air lines, to the supply, and the metered air so it can supply our Focus with the air it needs to stop. Our Brakemaster is going to be a semi-permanent installation. We're going to have this tank and valve assembly that will stay permanently installed underneath the hood of our vehicle. However, the actuator here is going to be quite a bit bigger, and it is going to be taken out and set in each time that we go to tow. Now our Brakemaster is going to require a specific seat adapter for our Focus that is sold separately. But the way this is going to work is instead of mounting to the brake pedal arm, we're going to have this clamp here that's going to clamp around the brake pedal. And then on the other end, this section here would mount onto that seat adapter, and then whenever the brakes are applied, the arm would extend out, pushing on the brake pedal. Now obviously we would need to remove this to drive it normally because we can't have that in the way of us operating the brake pedal ourselves. Now if your motorhome does have air brakes, these are going to give you that truly proportional braking. So if we slow down slowly, our brakes and our Focus will ease into it. And again, if we do have a panic stop situation where we slam on them, our Focus is going to apply them in the same intensity and time that we apply them on our motorhome. Our Air Force One is going to be a good permanent solution. However, keep in mind that the initial install is going to be a bit labor intensive. But once it's in, we're not going to have to worry about adjusting or setting anything else up. With the Brakemaster, our install is going to be less labor intensive, but every time we tow, we're going to have to hook up the actuator, and every time we get where we're going, we're going to have to take it out. So far, we've talked about permanent solutions. Now, if you don't plan on keeping your Focus that long, maybe you're going to trade it in, or if you have several different vehicles that you tow behind your motorhome, a portable braking system might be right for you. Most of our portable braking systems are going to be relatively the same on how they operate. The main unit's going to sit on the floorboard of the car between the seat and the brake pedal, and then we'll have this arm here that's going to wrap around the brake pedal, and when the brakes are applied, there's going to be an actuator that comes out and pushes on the brake pedal. One thing to keep in mind with the portable braking systems is that they are going to have external power. Now most of them are going to be operating off a 12-volt power, but in our case, our Focus is going to have the battery disconnected. So you may be required to pick up a separate 12-volt outlet kit that's going to be wired directly to the battery so we can have power going to the braking system. Also keep in mind this is going to add a little bit of extra time. Every time we hook up to our motorhome and go to flat tow, we're going to have to get this set up and in our Focus, and then whenever we get where we're going, we're going to have to remove everything so we can drive around. And that'll finish up your look at the best supplemental braking systems for your Ford Focus.